Welcome, everybody. Today we have a very special guest.
I knew early on that I wanted to make movies.
Such a difficult industry because there's a lot of luck involved.
I mean, look at American Werewolf in London, look at The Thing, look at The Fly. Look at these films that have really withstood the test of time.
I sculpted this Captain Kirk mask, and they didn't sell particularly well, but then John Carpenter came in, said, can you paint one white and spray paint his hair black?
I was maybe 9 or 10 years old, and it scared the living shit out of me.
You're just racking up these people that you grew up watching. They're in your films. Is that surreal?
There were 35 directors there. If there had been a bomb dropped on that restaurant, never another good horror movie.
Bene's Bloody Bits.
What's up?
It's Saturday. I'm tired, but we're here to talk about One Crazy Summer from 1986. How are you doing, Donnie?
I'm great. How about you?
Oh, man, just hanging in there. But this is a film that I will admit, I didn't watch it in the 80s. I didn't watch it in the 90s. For whatever reason, I didn't watch it till probably about a dozen years ago. And I was kind of looking back at the 80s, and there were so many films that I'd never seen. And I caught up with Better Off Dead, One Crazy Summer, How I Got Into College. And ironically, they're all directed by Savage Steve Holland. And I didn't know until yesterday. I mean, I know he was into animation, but he did the animation for the original version of Pressure Luck.
I didn't know that.
No whammies, stop, and the little whammies. He did those before he got into film. So that's cool because I remember playing hooky from school and acting like I was sick. And, that was the 80s. So you stayed home and watched The Price is Right and Pressure Luck and all this cool stuff. But I guess we probably should have done Better Off Dead first, but whatever. We're going to do One Crazy Summer.
Well, I watched Better Off Dead when it first came out. So I saw it young and I was obsessed. And when I saw One Crazy Summer was coming out, I thought it was a sequel to Better Off Dead because it had a lot of the same actors.
Or home video?
One Crazy Summer, I want to say I saw it in the theater, but I honestly can't remember. I know I saw Better Off Dead theatrically because I remember having my mom and dad take me like multiple times because I was obsessed with it. I would recite lines from the movie,
Yeah.
But I can't remember about One Crazy Summer. I think I might have missed, I'm not positive, but I think I might have missed it in the theater and caught it on, my dad had a big giant satellite dish. I think I might have caught it on either HBO or Showtime, but I'm not positive. I don't remember.
And what's interesting about the film is when you think about the plot and not watching the film, it's just a very basic story is, this guy, John Cusack's character, I really feel like is Savage Steve Holland is like his story.
Yeah.
Because he's an animator. The opening credits are animation, and then it pulls back, and then it's John Cusack drawing. And, he runs into this girl played by Demi Moore, who's a singer, whose, family home is, developers want to get a hold of it. So on the surface, you listen to that plot, you're like, this movie doesn't sound very interesting. But I think Savage Steve Holland's background, it's like a comic book film. It feels like it's not real. Like, there's the whole story with the little girl and her dog.
Yeah.
And the dog's got the cone over its head. And everybody, throughout the film, people make fun of her dog. But you don't mess with this girl. So there's these two little girls that make fun of her. And they make, make the pig nose and make the faces. And the crossing guard lady tells her, if you keep doing that, your face is going to stay like that. And we heard that when we were kids. And literally throughout the film, those girls film their faces stay like that. So I think it's very much like those films didn't do very well. Like One Crazy Summer wasn't a big box office hit. I don't think it was critically reviewed well, but I think it's because the critics didn't get that it was kind of supposed to be slapstick and
It's also
not.
pretty surreal. Like a lot of the things that happen are very, absurdist kind of comedy beats in it, and the plot you described is basically one of the standard issue plots. It's either Lose Your Virginity was a big one in the 80s, but so was Fight to Save a Place, whether it's a hotel, a house, a ski competition to save the mountain or something. That was a very common 80s thing. Like, a competition, competing in a competition so that you can save something else. It was extremely popular during that time. Late 80s into the early 90s. That was a big thing. Ski School is one that comes to mind.
No, you're right though. That was a theme, especially with teenage, films, is fight for what you believe in, right? I guess that's the Gen X thing. That's kind of like how we were brought up. It's like, don't take any crap. And I do think the key to the film is the casting. John Cusack, who ironically, I don't think he was fond of working with the director. If you talk to Cusack now, even though these are considered like two of his better films, he doesn't really like talking about them, which I think is unfortunate because it's some of his best work. Demi Moore, part of the Brat Pack. So, she's looking very hot. This is kind of her peak era for her, but also Bobcat Goldthwait. There's some SCTV veterans, John Matuzak, who played, his name, in the Goonies. So I think the cast is the key. And I do like Bobcat. I will admit, though, by the end of the film, I kind of got over his, his voice thing. You got to take him in small samples. But I still think the casting was the key.
I feel bad for him because kind of like, oh, crap. My brain's going to fart out on me. But what's the cat's name from The Hangover?
The actors?
Yeah, the one with the beard.
Danny McBride?
No, from goddamn, my brain. Zach Galifianakis.
Okay,
right? He got stuck kind of like in the same way that Bobcat did. Bobcat does not speak like that. It's not how he speaks, but he did it in Police Academy, and it's stuck. And he had all his subsequent roles. He talks like he's out of his fucking mind. And I feel bad because he does not speak like that. He speaks like a normal guy. So it sucks that he got stuck in that in the same way Zach Galifianakis did, because it's funny for a moment, you're right, but then it can grate on you after a bit, and it's sad that he kind of got stuck in that role over and over again.
And that's Hollywood. I don't really blame the actors and stuff. It's like Hollywood will do that. They see. I mean, look at Michael Keaton. He's the comedy guy, right? He can't be anything else. And Tim Burton's like, screw you. I'm going to cast him as Batman. And there was a backlash for that. And I think with comedy people, they definitely pigeonhole you into, you have to be this way. And I'm assuming this came from a stand-up routine, the Bobcat thing. I mean, and
I don't know. I didn't watch him. I saw him do stand-up in later years, but I didn't see him when he was younger. But my guess is it's probably one of the characters he did in stand-up, and it got, he got stuck with it.
Yeah, but I also, hey, he got to get, as you can see from the artwork, he got to be Godzilla. Yeah. He puts on the costume, and then William Hickey throws his cigar, and he destroys the developers, planogram of what they're going to do, if they get a hold of Demi Moore's house. And so it's like a cartoon come alive. It's very, I could see why it didn't click with people. I know that Siskel and Ebert, we grew up watching these guys, but I think people put too much stock in the critics, what they thought of things.
I kind of used them as a gauge of what I wanted to watch. If they didn't like it, I wanted to go see it. I was opposite when I was a kid because they didn't like any of the stuff I liked, So I figured if they hated it, I definitely needed to see it as soon as I could. And if they liked something, I probably wouldn't enjoy it in the theater. It was kind of like my litmus test for my taste. Now my tastes have grown, and now I like a lot of the movies they liked. But when a young Donnie liked, I liked boobs and blood and monsters and
Yeah.
all the things that they thought was childish, So
Well, because I was reading up some facts that okay, so Savage Steve Holland, he did the animation for the film. He was upset that Siskel and Ebert roasted Better Off Dead. So there's two animated bunnies that get blown up at the end of the movie.
yes, and they look like this. That's for sure that Spielberg.
It's supposed to look like Martha's Vineyard. It's supposed to look like Boston and the East Coast and stuff. And and I guess there's some toilet humor. There's the scene where they bear the guy up to the sand, up to his neck in the sand, and then the guy comes along and a bigger guy, and he sits down and he eats food, but then he eats beans, and it's kind of like toilet humor, but you don't see anything. It's not like graphic or anything, but I guess that I like that. I'm still a juvenile at heart. Like a lot of the stuff, I still get it. I don't ever want to become too much of an adult where I don't appreciate, because I think we're all like, look, the fact that we're talking about these movies and collecting these films, we're still big kids.
Of course.
Regardless if we're 50, 60, whatever age we are. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to become so cynical and to not like these kind of films, because I do worry about movies I grew up with when I was younger, when I watch them with adult eyes, if I'm still going to enjoy them. So does that ever concern you?
That doesn't happen to me. It's the one thing I worry about the young generation, my daughter's generation, is they get easily offended. And I get it, man. They've had a hard life. It's not as easy for them as it was for us when we were kids to get out on their own. And a lot of their experiences are positive. They're more open than our generation and our parents' generation, other kinds of people, but they get offended really easy. And films like this, and the John Hughes films were under fire, I guess, because because they aren't always they poked fun at our generation, and yeah, I don't let that stuff get to me. One of my favorite movies is the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde spoof, Jekyll and Hyde Together Again.
Of course, man.
And I don't think that you can get much more offensive than that movie. But notice, I haven't seen it, a re-release of that one in a while. I don't know if there's been a release of that one on
You know
Blu-ray.
what? I believe there's a DVD, which I need to get. There's no Blu-ray.
Yeah, because it's super offensive, and yeah, it might be a risky release.
Well, you know what? I think that will be our next retrospective. I mean, we did it a long time ago for a killer film, but I think I need to watch it again. I might even have to buy it digital. Sadly, I don't think the DVD's out of print. I doubt that somebody like Tubi has it. I saw that movie in the theaters, and you brought up a good point. This generation, this time, I understand there's nothing wrong with being aware. I don't want to say woke. I hate that word. I think it's overused, and it's a cop out for racist, homophobic, sexist people. But this generation is more sensitive. I think stand-up comedians are not allowed to be comedians anymore. They should be able to, I mean, go back and watch Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and George Carlin. We need that in life. Poke fun at everybody. Everybody should be made fun of to a point. And I think this generation is more aware of things, maybe to the point of it's overboard. It's overkill. It feels like you can't step away. Like it's like they're at their keyboard or at their phone waiting to react to something in a movie or a TV show. And I think that affects the quality of films. Because the director is overthinking stuff. The writer is overthinking. I can't put this because I might offend somebody, and they go on Twitter and they cancel me.
I think that's going to change. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie, they make fun of everyone. No one is safe in that movie. Like no race, gender, no one is safe. That movie pokes fun at everyone, and it made a lot of money. And I think it shows that the younger generation and our generation, sometimes it's okay, maybe it took Deadpool and Wolverine to show them that you can just make fun of people, that you can enjoy life and have a laugh at other people's expense. And sometimes a joke is nothing more than a joke. I mean, everyone was mad at Eddie Murphy for his gay jokes, but he's obviously he obviously doesn't hate gay people. He was caught with a tranny hooker.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we forget that they're telling jokes. I think a lot of people, even our generation, they were mad at a lot of comedians, especially Carlin. He got a lot of shit. And I think it's because we forget it's jokes. We forget that they're up there writing jokes. It's all jokes. It's funny. It's meant to be funny. And Savage Steve, definitely the Savage makes sense because he pokes fun at a lot of people too. A lot of the jokes are really pointed. And I think that's good. I think it's needed. I think movies like this and Ski School, God, I miss those movies. I miss, just having a good time and making movies for the fun of it. And if you notice today, like, these movies are not much different than in the way they're produced, except this one probably had a pretty big budget. It was on the water, but to the sci-fi original movies and things like that. But those movies fall flat now because back when these movies were made, filmmakers were passionate about it, right? They cared what they were making. They cared. They weren't just making some, 300th shark movie that's going to play on Sci-Fi Channel that day or the 50th comedy. They cared about the films they were making. They cared. Even though Porky's 3 probably isn't the greatest movie ever made, the people making it cared about it. And it shows in the filmmaking, and it shows in One Crazy Summer that they cared about what they were making when they were making it. And that's what I miss. I miss the B movies and the schlock and being made with the love and care that these movies were made at. And they still make these movies, and in some ways they're making a comeback. You know, they're starting to resurface slowly, and I think we'll see more of them. I really do. I think what goes around comes around. I mean, for Christ's sake, I went to a restaurant yesterday and a brewery, and you know, right when I walked in, there was a guy with a mustache and a mullet. So everything comes full circle.
Yeah, talking to the wife, she says the clothes are the frizzy hair. So what was cool in the 80s or 90s seems to come around, but I think Deadpool and Wolverine gets away with it because it's such a blockbuster, guaranteed money maker. I don't know if something like One Crazy Summer gets made, even though it's not really that enough to make people a little uncomfortable with stuff. And it was normal for us. We didn't think about it when we watched those films. This is just the way it was. But we weren't in the world where we went outside to talk to people. If you want to talk about this film when you were growing up, you didn't go to the internet because it didn't exist. You went to the streets. You talked about it for 5 minutes. You didn't get overly aggressive with people because you might get punched in the face, where now everybody hides behind screen names and avatars. And so it's just a different, more organic time where if you had issues, you talked it out in person or you fought it out in person, and then you moved on and you went and played. Because, you know, we were the latchkey generation. We were that, you know, there's always those memes about Gen X and how we played outside until it got dark. And if we were thirsty, we drank out of the water, you know, the water hose at a friend's house. And that's it's the way it was. It was a very different time. And something like One Crazy Summer and this era of comedies, it just can't be replaced. Like from like 1980 to the early 90s, just, you know, you're talking about Ski School or Bikini Car Wash Company, or just these Jekyll and Hyde Together Again, which is top 5 ever. When I first got on Facebook in 2008, Mark Blankfield was on Facebook, and I reached out to him to do an interview, probably during Late Night Classics, and he didn't respond, but I think he had moved on. He'd become a teacher.
Yeah, that's what I heard. He's teaching.
I think, you know, he probably looked in the past and probably didn't really want to, you know, oh man, you know, my younger days, that movie was offensive and all that. But it was a bummer. I really wanted to get an interview with him. So that film's just great. So
it is. It's phenomenal. And he is one. He could have been, like, in my eyes, he was like the next Gene Wilder. You know, he had that something that.
How do you become the lead in Jack? I know a lot of people haven't seen Jekyll and Hyde Together Again, but he's the lead. That movie is hilarious from beginning to end. It pokes fun at everybody. And I think he went on to be like, remember there was a made-for-TV movie, a sequel to The Jerk with Steve Martin called The Jerk.
That. Yeah.
2 TOO. And he had some smaller roles in like some other kind of comedies like Frankenstein General Hospital or something like that. But
I haven't seen
it. Which I watched it on Tubi, and he doesn't have a huge role, but I was like, I guess it's just me. Me and my brothers went and saw Jekyll and Hyde Together Again in the theater. And
yeah, I did too.
It's still funny. My brothers will still quote it now. I haven't watched it forever,
I still quote it. I mean, it's my wife and I'll go to a Asian restaurant, and the first thing I say when I walk through the door is a bacalhau. You know, like we still quote it. And I went and saw it because I was into those spoof movies. Like Airplane was huge for me, right? Which is also super offensive, but it was huge for me when I was a kid. We watched it on repeat, and when Jekyll and Hyde came in, I mean, they sold it as that. It was a Jekyll and Hyde version of Airplane. So I went straight to the theater.
Wait, Donnie, I have a message for you, okay?
Uh-huh. That's right. My wife knows. She's a huge fan of it as well. You know, it's another movie that we watch regularly because I just can't get enough of it. It's hilarious. And Elvira's in it. Elvira plays the nurse with the lips painted on her.
I'm sorry, One Crazy Summer. We have hijacked you, and we have moved on to the Jekyll and Hyde Together Again retrospective. But no, I mean, One Crazy Summer is still a great film. I don't see it getting made today. I think it was back in an era where it was more passion, not content. It was, let's go out, have fun, make the best, you know. And I looked up Savage Steve Holland. You know, he's still directing films up into like 2020, a lot of family films, Disney
A lot
films,
of Disney TV shows. Yeah.
lots of. And I know a lot of directors have gone from feature to TV, but I was happy to see he's still prolific. He's still working. I want to see One Crazy Summer get a deluxe Blu-ray. Better Off Dead is overdue. How I Got Into College, I don't think has been put out since VHS.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's kind of like his unholy trinity comedy, films. And I don't think the name rings a bell with a lot of people. I know a number of years ago he did some screening up in LA of like a Q&A, and he showed up. And it's somebody I'd love to get on here to talk about his
I
films.
love his work.
I think it's not a voice that, not a name that sticks out. Like, you don't think of him, I mean, if you ask people if they love Better Off Dead, like, can you name the director or One Crazy Summer? Can you can name the cast, we know who they are, but the director.
Well, he sounds like a wrestler. I mean, Savage Steve Holland. He sounds, but I love his stuff. And I follow, there's a Facebook group for Better Off Dead, and Diane Franklin posts a lot on it. Like, she's still into that movie, she supports it.
Dude, she takes the film to conventions, and people will like get a photo op with her and they wear it. Or isn't there, I haven't seen Better Off Dead in many years. Wasn't there a sweater that's very popular that either she wore or some character wore? But
yeah,
she takes it to conventions.
Yeah, she's great.
And I wouldn't want to wear it. And imagine all the stinky convention goers who have put that thing on.
I know.
I kind of had a falling. I don't know if you know, but I've had a falling out with conventions, and I haven't been in like 7 years. I got burnt out about it. Burnt out on it. I talked about it before. I think that industry has changed a lot, and not for the better. It's overpriced, and now you got to pay for everything. Yeah. Photo op, selfie, parking to get in, and $300 later, you're paying for like 2 autographs, and they're kind of like cattle. They're just kind of moving you in, getting you out, and it's lost a lot of its luster for me, at least.
I'll be honest. I mean, I like conventions to an extent. They're a necessary evil, and I'm glad they're there because they help actors, make a living. However, I think some of the prices are exorbitant. I'm not paying $200 for an autograph. I don't pay for autographs, but I would never pay $200 for an autograph. And they're honestly, in my older age,
yeah,
crowds a lot for me. Like, having taken a half an hour to walk through 100 sweaty people to get to the next event it's just not as fun for me anymore.
Yeah.
I don't hate them. I have to really want to see something that they've got going on, just because it's a lot. I mean, film festivals are more expensive, but it's not as jam packed with people. And
yeah,
I don't know, man. The conventions stress me out. I think it's my age.
I'm a homebody. I've always been a homebody, but when I was younger, it was easy. I still had that fire lit under my ass to go to conventions and screenings. But another thing is, once you've met most of your heroes, and for the most part I have, it's hard to want to go back. I met the big boys. Some of them have passed away. Some of them are still around. But I kind of like did it for so long that I felt like I accomplished everything I wanted to do. And it's easier for me just to sit at home on my computer and record videos like this. It's just easier outlet, But One Crazy Summer, would you rank it in your top 10 comedies of the 80s, or where does it kind of fall for you?
I don't know if it's a top 10. It's definitely in my top 100.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me from a nostalgia standpoint. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a lot of memories attached to both this one and Better Off Dead that I'll never let go. Even down to the soundtracks. I mean, I still listen to the soundtrack for Better Off Dead like often. Aaron and I have it on vinyl. I'm a huge fan of the guy's work. I mean, I don't think it stands up against John Hughes for me. So, I don't know if I put it in my top 10, but it definitely means a lot to my childhood, my memories, and everything. My nostalgia. He stokes my nostalgia very much, for sure.
And then Demi Moore sings in the movie too, as well, right?
It's
And I
a
don't
pretty
when I
cheesy song, but she's not bad. You know,
I mean, she's eye candy, so it doesn't matter. Like when I watched the film, I just figured she's lip syncing to somebody else, right?
no, she's
She's
not.
lip syncing to herself
Yep.
because she actually recorded the song. Which, again, this is why it's good to go back and watch movies because your eyes change as you get older. You know, you look for different things, you spot things that you didn't notice before. I don't think it's top 10 for me, but it's like you said, it's a time machine. It's a time capsule. It's a memory movie. It brings you back to who was alive in your life when you watched it, right? What family, maybe parents, grandparents, maybe some people who are no longer with you. So, or it puts you back into middle school or high school. And you can remember the struggles of that time and how coming home and watching that movie, you know, on VHS made life okay, which we kind of still do it now. It never really changes, you know, you still do it. You come home from work and you're like, you put on a movie, something that makes you feel, you know, better than, you know, the struggles of life and shit.
Yeah, it's definitely a comfort movie for me. I still enjoy Better Off Dead a little more.
Oh yeah, it's better.
But I like this one a lot. You know, I think this one looks like he was trying maybe to appease investors a little bit more than Better Off Dead, because Better Off Dead is like, it's super off the deep end, batshit nuts with some of the sequences, right? Whereas this one's, I don't want to say grounded because it is insane, but he doesn't go as surreal as he did in Better Off Dead. You know, Better Off Dead has some moments where you have to really be like, okay, I get it. He's just being silly, you know.
Well, I want to, before I forget, we're gonna do a preview of what our next film is gonna be, but I want to make sure if you guys could like, share, and subscribe to the channel, I appreciate everybody watching. I think we're gonna do Jekyll and Hyde Together again from 1982, starring Mark Langfield. I need to watch it. I need to find a copy of it. I know it's only on DVD. I won't say too much about it. I'll save it for our next conversation. But that movie is perfect, and I'm probably one of 50 people on this planet that saw it in theaters. I really did see it with my brothers. And
I saw it in theaters too.
At 11 years old, I should not have been seeing it, but that's what I do love about my upbringing. Kind of was just, you go watch it, you'll figure it out, and you know, you'll come home and you won't be a crazy person. So
yeah, my parents didn't even ask what I was going to see. You know, they were just like, here's cash, go.
Exactly.
Get out of our hair for a little while. They drop us off at the mall at like noon and come get us at 9. You know. So it was, I saw that one in the theater.
Thank you everybody for watching and spending your Saturday afternoon with us. We'll be back maybe in October. We'll figure it out. But thank you, Donnie, for coming on. Thank you, you know, Savage, Steve Holland, wherever you are. Thank you for your great films. And hopefully we'll see some nice Blu-ray edition of One Crazy Summer in the future. And thank you everybody for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.